Welcome back to the Music Maker's Cookbook, where we help you cook up recipes for success in the music industry. My name is Brandon, and this is a solo episode with just me. We weren't able to meet this week, so I'm going to take this one solo dolo. I appreciate you guys joining me today, and I hope you guys get something out of this. This one's a little bit more abstract. I like to live in the abstract a little bit more and kind of think in the abstract a little bit. And this is a question that came up to me like recently. And I also want to apologize real quick too, because I'm using a webcam I got from like Facebook Marketplace that I didn't even want. It just came with a monitor, and so I'm gonna test it out, and it looks kind of bad. But like, this is just the one episode that we're gonna do this. I don't have a setup for the camera on top of my desk, but maybe I should invest in that. So that's a note to me. I got asked this question a couple weeks back because somebody near and dear to me went on to a job interview, and they put a lot of emphasis on this question during the job interview, which is funny to think about because you can throw out the entire rest of the interview, I guess, which is basically what they were kind of saying. And it kind of rested upon this one question. So I think this question is actually important because it spans multiple industries and kind of affects us too. And that question is it better to be late and perfect or on time and good enough? There is an absolute moral dilemma implanted within this question. And there's a specific way books and job interview books want you to answer this question, right? Whether or not you think it's the right way to answer the question is a different story, but they are looking for a specific answer. I'm going to give you that answer right now because, like, who cares? Basically, what they want you to say is good enough and on time, right? Because it's important to be on time. You got to hit the deadlines, even if it's something that comes up last minute. You just needs to be good enough to put it out, right? To present to somebody, to email to someone, to send to accounting, right? Fill in the blank. They want it to be on time and just good enough. And you know what? That makes sense though, because there's a threshold there, right? The work still gets done. The work is accurate. It might not be the prettiest looking. It might not be the most thorough job, but it's done and it's on time. And that makes sense because things keep going. And I mean, the thing about being late and perfect too is that we can sit and fester on a lot of things, right? We can keep refining a product over and over and over again and not actually get anywhere with it. Sean has a great saying, my co-host who's not here today. He has a great saying that are you making it better? Or are you just making it different at the end of the day? And that's where perfectionism gets stepped on a lot. That's the issue with perfectionism. And it's a very fine line. And it takes a lot of maturity and willpower to learn how to deal with that and know when enough is enough. Perfect is never going to be perfect. You'll always be chasing perfect. The one spot that gets me about this question is the good enough part, because good enough sometimes leads to laziness, to not doing your 100% best work. And it also ties into laziness, of course. This presents a big moral dilemma, right? Because not only are you not delivering the best product that you actually can, but you're not like actually maximizing your capabilities to their maximum extent, in my opinion. This is very abstract, and I'm going to get back to why this matters to us in a second. So now that we're kind of presented with both sides of the aisle with this question, I want to pose this question to you and how you work as a musician, how you work as an audio engineer, how you work as a producer, however you work as a photographer, videographer. If you're listening to this or watching this, I appreciate you listening. It means a ton. How does this affect us, right? Why is this question important to us? Well, let me take you through a quick story. Within the past month, I've had multiple projects from some really great friends of mine take exceedingly long to even get over to me for me to be able to work on, right? Now, you can say that's a failure on the engineer, whatever the case may be, blah, blah, blah. Sure, we can point fingers all day. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to decide that, right? But they were late though, right? That's what I'm trying to say, is that they were late and they were good enough at this point. However, my friends in this specific situation would not return to those people that they worked with. I've been confirmed through that by one person so far, and I can kind of sense the vibes from this other person, my other friend too, that is the case, right? So what that means for us is that if we're not even delivering on time and we're not delivering even good enough, right, that's a massive problem. And that can spill over into lost opportunities in the future, right? That's why I think it's important to step back from the question, right? Now before I do that, let's just say it was perfect and late, right? Well, that's awesome. Maybe it was perfect. And if it was late, I surely hope that lateness was communicated to said person, right? Because communication is important in this aspect, I think. So let's take a step back. I'm so sorry if seems rambly or just counterproductive, but I wanted to do an episode, just as a little disclaimer real quick, that wasn't on our list that Sean and I could actually tackle, because we have a whole list of episodes coming up that we're planning on doing and putting time and effort into. This one I just wanted to present as more of like a question, maybe a reflection moment, right? And I didn't want to dive into any of those heavier topics just because I think those deserve the due diligence of putting those together with my co-hosts here, right? But let's go back to the question real quick, right? And this is the question. I'm going to remind everybody this is the question. Is it better to be late and perfect or good and on time, right? I think this is actually a terrible question, because I think leading up to it, there needs to be accountability on both ends, right? This question can ultimately be avoided. And of course, there are situations where this question does exist out of emergencies, out of opportunities that come up that need quick attention towards. However, I think if everything's properly communicated up to this point, I think if everything's delivered properly at this point, then this question is ultimately useless. And that's what we should really be striving for, right? So with that being said, I think we should strive to avoid having to decide what exactly this means to somebody, right? I don't think we should get to a point where we're either delivering something late or something that's just good enough. I think we should strive to always do our best. Obviously, in a perfect world, that would be the case. There are times that arise where we need to deliver something that is just in the nick of time, right? We need to deliver something that is perfect, but on time as well. I ultimately think that proper action, proper communication can ultimately deter us having to make these decisions in the long run. I think this will pay off dividends for you as a creative, as a musician, as a photographer, whoever is listening to this. I think this will ultimately pay off dividends for you in the future, because not only will it lead to a positive feedback loop where people recommend you, people want to work with you, people have heard good things, your work shows for it. Because now if you have the proper amount of time to deliver on time, that means you can work on something to your perfection or your client's perfection. Now, your perfection is defined differently than my perfection versus Sean's perfection versus the person's outside's perfection, right? But what I'm trying to say is that I think leading up to this point, and this should be avoided. And I think by avoiding this, you will save your life, you will save yourself a lifetime of headaches ahead as a musician, and keeps you going in the music industry, right? Because it's certainly good to be both damn perfect, damn near perfect, pretty fucking good, and on time, because there's value in both of those. So I just want to talk about this question real quick. I want to hear your responses to this. I know I rambled. I know it might have been a little misguided of an episode and a little bit different, but I just wanted to put something down and ask you guys and see if I can get some interactions from you guys, see what your thoughts are on this question that I posed to you.
Hey, this is Sean jumping in real quick. I'm currently editing the episode that Brandon sent over to me, doing a solo thing. And I just wanted to real quickly state that I think it was really appropriate that he chose in this scenario the whole thing of having it on time and good enough versus having it delayed and perfect, because that is literally what we're doing right now. We have the deadline of the podcast coming out every Tuesday, and that consistency matters a whole lot to us. So having this topic of being like, hey, let's do a solo object. Let's talk about the whole idea of, is it better to get something out, even if it's, not necessarily exactly the way that you want it. He brought up my whole saying of, at some point, when you make changes, it's not better, it's just different. But another saying is, it's better done than perfect, because when it's done and it's out there, that way Other people can give you their feedback. You can reflect on it. You can see how it's received, and you can iterate moving forward, especially in this modern age where things just move so quickly. Yesterday's news barely can last, like, no one really remembers it because there's always something new that's coming up, always something that moves forward in this attention economy. Not to get too deep about all of it, but like at the end of the day, all of this that we're creating, like for your music, it's your music, your brand, your content creation for making music videos, shorts, whatever you are doing to get noticed out there. It is always a creation of moving forward and making new things for people to consume. There's always new music. Bands don't just release one album and then disappear. It just can't be sustainable that way. There's always more coming out, more iteration. So not waiting too long to get something out, to get feedback, to move on, to get the next thing out, it's very important. And this is just completely separate from what Brandon's saying. This is a very interesting interview question because there are plenty of artists who have the exact opposite thing of you can't rush it, but it really just depends on how you're looking at it. If you're looking at art to make art for art's sake, then I think it's entirely valid to think, no, you can't rush it. I'm just going to take my time, make it perfect for me. But if you are looking to make a career in the industry and you haven't put out enough and you haven't caught on enough to get enough eyeballs on you to make the art for you that other people will appreciate, you need to get stuff out there for them to become aware of you. Because at a certain point, it's not a question of whether or not the art or the music is good or bad. It's a question of, do people even know that it's out there? And with how much new stuff is happening and how quick the turnaround is, getting it done on time, on your schedule so that people can see it, so it's out there, that's just incredibly important in my opinion. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of add this quick little end note at the end of the episode that Brandon graciously did solo-wise. I was working a festival all weekend and the scheduling didn't work out, but yeah, I'll hop back into what he's saying.
So with that being said, you can contact us at podcast@musicmakerscookbook.com through email, or you can message us on our social media. We are on all social media platforms, I think minus Twitter. You can also find more about me and what I do at studio222recording.com. I work on all types of music, mixing, mastering, recording. I would love to see you there. You can fill out an inquiry form and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. You can also find me on all social media platforms. You can find me at @_Brandon McLeod or at studio222recording. I don't have Sean's plugs written down, but you can find more about Sean at swsrecordings.com and fill out a contact inquiry there. Or you can find him on social media at SWS Recordings. I think he's on everything minus Twitter as well. And he would want me to say too that he will try to get back to you in a good amount of time on the website, but will attempt to try his best on social media platforms because he also does not check them as much. So him and I are in the same boat with that one. So if you need to contact us, please go through our website so we actually see it and get your message because we'd love to talk to you. Once again, I want to apologize for such a weird episode, a very misguided episode, but I thought it was an interesting question and it's come up in my personal life and in my work life fairly frequently recently, and I wanted to talk about it. Like I said, I didn't want to go through an entire episode today just because I think the episodes that we have on our list deserve the due diligence of being able to, talk to each other, Sean and I, that is, and plan out a good episode for you guys so you guys get the most value out of it. So anyways, with that being said, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and if you guys have stayed this long, then you deserve something. I'll catch you guys on the next one. I don't even remember what Sean says at the end, but at this point, this is just a Midwest goodbye, and I think I'll just end it off with a bon appetit.